Where's my gavel? And recognize Ray Parker will no longer be coming. He has resigned from the committee.
Oh,
So we'd like to, yeah, I know, thank him for his service to the committee and town. He assures us that he's going to continue with the bird boxes. The wood ducks.
Yes. Reed is also the chair of the energy committee. Meets twice a month and sounds like he's,
Got a lot going.
plenty busy with their
Yeah.
work, which is understandable.
And he wanted to be able to make this last meeting, but he's going to see the Nash show concert at the Flynn, and so he would have liked to be here, but he also wanted to be there.
Understandable.
That's when you get a copy of yourself.
that's right.
Okay. And do we have any public here that want to make any comments? This is the time for public comments.
That was it.
Okay, it would be nice to have a clone sometimes for me.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Now we're 4 minutes ahead. We can move along to approval of minutes from September 12th.
I move to approve the minutes of September 12th with any necessary amendments.
I have some comments and questions to follow up on the minutes. Because we had some things that were left to explore and somebody would, like, we would check into. So I was checking up on if, like, in 3.7, we made a motion to submit the proposal to the select board in regards to the trail plan. I was checking to see if that has been submitted.
I can give an update on that. Yeah. So the trail plan was submitted to the select board. The next meeting is next week. It's on the 15th, and we'll be discussing that around 7:50 is on the agenda. I'll be there and just summarizing the committee's discussion, and then shared that with John. He's planning to be there to present the plan to the board. Yeah. So that, yeah. Leave it there, actually.
And then on 4.1, you reviewed the ARPA funding at the select board meeting.
Yes. ARPA funding, was there anything else?
There wasn't a decision to fund the projects yet, not yet.
You did both committees, right?
There was, yeah, there were a few different items that I was there for, and I was just making sure that we covered all of them for this one. But yes, that was discussed.
Oh, and
you got money for
funds.
invasives,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you. The $3,000 was approved. And I will say I've reached out to Bob Hines, who Ethan had suggested. I haven't heard back from him yet, and I'm a little skeptical based on the time of year that he'll be able to complete it before the end of the season. But he might surprise me. I think Ethan's initial plan was to finish it before the end of October at the latest. So we're pushing that. But maybe we get him on the schedule for next season and just get that put down so he's prepared.
Right. And we're also going to talk about the invasive management plan later in our agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, that was some of it.
Okay, great. Maybe and then on 4.5, there was you were going to explore if the DPW would help maintain the parking lot.
Yes, and that is, I'd say, a pending one. I talked to Eric a little bit about that, and we were talking about some previous discussion that happened about plowing, and he was at first, I think, unclear on like we're talking about plowing maintenance or long-term maintenance. And I think long-term maintenance would be, I mean, that's what we talked about. That's what the committee talked about, but it's a bigger question and would be something to explore with Public Works.
Having I can share from having been in prior discussions, it was the long-term maintenance is my impression of what we're after. The plowing had been discussed, but it was like, well, you'll be last on the list because you're just a parking lot. Like, we got to get the roads open, and Catamount needs to be open like dark 30 for the skiers to show up on a snow day. So I think the Outdoor Family Center was planning to continue to own plowing. Although I think we had problems with our contractor. And it was hard to find somebody to even plow for us.
Really?
And somehow I think. But yeah, I think that the plowing is a difficult one for the town to take on, just because the urgency of getting the parking lot open for skiers on a snow day.
That makes sense. Yeah. Danielle, if you want me to just go through too, we talked about sheep barn.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
As well, and that one, I did look into the historical requirements for that. The discussion talked about, you know, if a storm brought it down, that sort of thing. We don't have, if something major happens and there's some storm out of the blue that, you know, does damage to the building, you know, we're not liable to the historic, you know, the state historic permitting regime to, you know, basically having not done whatever work is necessary. As far as maintaining it in general, there are some requirements to keep historic structures, you know, maintained. The enforcement of those requirements, I think, is very limited. And so long term, you know, I think there are a lot of historic. I think there are a lot of historic structures that end up being neglected in Vermont, and it's unfortunate that happens, but it's all too common, and so I'll leave it there. But
I also did find, and you know, going back and see and things, or maybe a message from Terry on after Terry left. She wrote, Melinda Scott had an assessment done on the sheep yard barn a few years ago by Elliot Lathrop, which could be still here at the planning office. And the only thing that has been done to date is to put a cable through the top of the barn, and that the roof needs to be patched to prevent further damage. I guess that was the assessment done previously.
I wasn't aware of that, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll check in with Melinda about that if I can find it.
Yeah. And then Reed's name is spelled wrong on section number 2.
Number 2. Thank you.
They're probably auto-corrected.
Okay, so do we have enough? Do we have a quorum to?
We got 4, right?
3 of us.
There is.
Oh, sorry.
Should you have met before?
I don't.
Let's go back and introduce Amanda.
Yes, my name is Amanda. I'm the operations and event manager for the Catamount Outdoor Family Center. I periodically pop into these meetings and here to give an update for Catamount tonight if y'all need.
Hey, I'm Jean Jensen. I'm a member of the committee and on the select board. So nice to meet you.
I'm sorry, I didn't do that first.
I
like to recognize
you know
if you don't know each other.
So we're down 2, right? Is there 5? This is a 5-member committee?
Kim and then Reed resigned, so.
Right, but like there's a
But then
place for
again-
him, right?
Yeah,
And Kim took,
Terry's
Terry's
spot
spot.
from the Conservation Commission.
right.
So you
And
and
Reed was a
Terry,
member
and you
of
and
the
Reed are the public.
Yeah. so then you need to like put out a help wanted ad and have somebody volunteer.
So we'll do that
Yes.
under other business. I'd like to have a little kind of discussion about that if we could. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I'll put that for today, perhaps.
Yeah, right. Item number 5.
We're quick on here.
3 is the minimum
Quorum.
quorum, and so you can vote on minutes.
Okay. Or did somebody
Motion on the floor.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays are not here. Okay, great job with the minutes.
Yes.
We're moving along to review our Catamount Community Forest Committee charge. Which I thought was, you know, we've had some new people, some changes, and it'll be interesting. I think it'll be good for us on the committee to talk about what's the point of our committee? Who are we? Where are we going?
We're gonna read the managing plan, is that a place to go? Or are you sharing?
So I was just going to share, this is on the town website. It's a little small, I recognize. Let's see. It's not working. If you can read that, this is the sort of charge that this committee has. It's a little different from some other committees that you might see, just based on the fact that it references the management plan, which is much more detailed.
Oversight of the management of the Catamount Community Forest Property Management Plan, basically. All right, so then we need to go to look at the management plan.
And implement the goals, yeah, of the
And
management.
implement the goals of the management plan.
Do you want to screen share the management plan?
That'd be great. And the management plan is different than the community forest plan. Or no, the management plan is an addendum to the community forest plan,
There's,
So it's a little confusing because there are two management plans.
right?
There's the community forest plan, which is often referred to as the management plan. And then there's the forest management plan
This one.
that Ethan prepared, which is more of the scientific, talking about forestry management plan.
Yes.
Then we have an invasive management plan that we're trying to do. It's a joke.
Yes.
Well, I kind of get the, and maybe this comes back to when we talk about, trying to pull in another member, is that I sort of understand the oversight of the outdoor family center, right? And the actions that the outdoor family center takes. What I'm afraid of losing is, Terry and Reed both brought a lot of passion for the forest part of it, you know. I don't have a passion for trees, frankly. I appreciate them. I'm glad we have it, but I'm not gonna sit here and start planning, bird boxes and things. And, I feel a little bit, Kim clearly has a conservation bend, but I kind of feel like that passion for all those other things on Terry's list it will be a vacuum.
So that is another question I have about Terry's list. So Terry sent me all the things that Terry has done for the last 7 years for the with the
Right.
committee.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, how do these things continue? Which I guess this is a great time to talk about with the charge. Who's taking it? Terry might still be doing some of these things. Like, how are we going to continue what's been started? Because some of it, I think, like the bobbling project is mentioned in some of the management plan as well. So it's not just like Terry's passion, but I think we're expected to continue having bird monitoring plans.
I mean, my thought is, everybody wears a few hats. I think there's committee members that are here to fulfill this charge. And then there's people that are volunteers with the community forest that implement programs that follow their passions. I feel like Terry and Reed did two roles. So I think it's a fair point. And I would also say that the Outdoor Family Center does do like TikToks and fungi walks and a lot of like forestry stuff. I mean, the charter of the nonprofit is an education-based nonprofit. So it's not just like, fast bicycles and skiing. And Amanda is like pedigreed in forestry and she's worked for the state and run fish and wildlife stuff. I'm speaking for you, Amanda. So I just wanted to footnote that that I would say that there's some of that happens to the Outdoor Family Center, but I do feel like it's a loss to have passionate volunteers that are both like implementing programs like the bird boxes and like leading invasive days. Like it's a lot to ask a volunteer CCF committee member to say like, oh, and can you free up half of your weekends to like lead people to clear invasives too? And that was like something that I mean, I know Laura Myers was on the committee too for a while,
Mhm.
and Terry contributed a lot in that way as volunteers. Yeah, so I think if we're looking for a replacement, it's probably in our best interest to find somebody that also wants to like run a volunteer program. I would, my last thought, and I'll be quiet. I think you have to look at everything that Terry did in two lenses. One, was it a committee member? And two, was it a volunteer, somebody volunteering to run a program at the forest? So I don't know how you kind of you need both of those for things to be sustained.
Right. So I think maybe we need to reach out to Terry and see what is Terry still doing? Or is Terry still doing things? Do we, like, Reed still plans to continue to check the bird boxes. So what kind of volunteers do we have out there? Is that something the committee is and keeps an eye on?
That's a good
I have more
question.
questions than answers right now
Yeah.
about what our role is here.
Can I also throw in just a thought on volunteers too? Catamount has a volunteer waiver and a volunteer log where we track volunteer hours, and I'm not sure how many of the CCF volunteers are going through that same process, but in my mind, they are volunteers in the same capacity. So it'd be wonderful to have those tracked in some capacity as well. And I don't see why we couldn't use the same forms that we already have in existence. But just keeping record of who's out there doing what, so we know all the work that's going into the area.
Yeah, we do have two separate volunteer. I mean, there's also the distinction of a volunteer for the CCF, which is a town volunteer, and Andrew tracks that and has a process for that.
Right.
And their liability insurance covers that. And then there's COFC volunteers. So there's a little bit of like the legal side of
And
who you're volunteering with that has to be considered.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Yes, I think that brings up a good point, is that the town wants to be tracking volunteers. I will say that I think some people might not follow those guidelines that the town sets out. I think that there are many people that are volunteering out sort of under the town at Catamount and also at other places in town that I'm not aware of. And the enforcement of that is really challenging for staff. Enforcement is sort of a tough word to use, but the goal is to have volunteers notifying us when they're going out and for us to understand what sort of work they're doing, because there are limitations on the hours that they can volunteer based on state law. And there are limitations on what sort of like equipment they can use and what sort of personal protection equipment they need to be wearing. And so the oversight of that is very challenging. And so as a little aside, I think that, maybe some coordination between the family center and the town might be something that could be beneficial in the future. But that is the experience that I've had as far as town volunteers are concerned.
Can I throw an idea out?
Well, it was really didn't mean to go back to the whole volunteer thing, which I think was a big part of your committee before I joined, right? I mean, I was really more interested in this committee's role in anything other than oversight of the family center. It just seems like it's a bigger role than that, and there's oversight of the committees, and there's a whole bunch else, and I don't know who else is. What am I overseeing?
Like the lumbering project.
Yes.
Can I suggest what I think from our discussion so far?
Mhm.
I think through the town and through passionate volunteers, we've organically, and I attempted to have it a little bit more formal with Reed writing up a document about the bird box management memo that we did that a few months ago. I think like this CCF committee oversees the town forest. There's the invasive management plan. There's the forestry management plan. We make sure those things are moving forward. Then there's the COFC license. We oversee to make sure that is being followed. So, there's like awareness and oversight of understanding those plans and pushing them to go forward. And then I think there's something that hasn't been formalized, which is what are the other volunteer programs that exist at the CCF that need to be sort of checked in on. like the Bird Box program, I think is a very wonderful volunteer effort. And Reed is currently staffing that volunteer committee. And I don't call it a committee, I don't know, right? But as a CCF, if we wake up and we're like, oh, yeah, those bird boxes are falling over, where'd Reed go? Oh, he hasn't done anything for 5 years, then shame on us. Like, I think as a town, we could have like other little programs that the town is sponsoring that happen in the forest that exist in harmony with all these other things. You know, like the bobolinks, the bird boxes, the duck boxes, like, and then we would have that like on our list of things, like, so invasive management plan, forest management plan, COFC license, the bird monitoring program, the duck box thing, you know, and that's like, oh, these are the things that we're making sure are either going forward and vibrant, or we need to shut them down, right? Like, hey, the bird boxes, nobody's been doing anything. So can we put a call out to the community to find some members to staff the town committee to keep the bird box program going? Like, we're responsible for the existence, or, you know, the authority for the existence of the program under the town's management of the forest. And if we see that, like, you know, these bird boxes are falling over, nobody's doing anything, we can't get any volunteers to do this anymore, then we need to, as a committee, like, initiate like cancellation of the program and removal of the bird boxes. Otherwise, it's, you just have things sort of like strewn behind you as, oh, well, so-and-so used to do this, but nobody's been maintaining it and it's falling apart. And
Right, and it seems like now with having less contact with the volunteers that are doing that, we want to get more of a plan where we know
Right.
what's happening.
Yeah.
But also, I like how you're like, we do have the forest management
Mhm.
that we did just kind of complete a big project on.
yeah,
But there's a new forester, so it'd be nice to.
I
and
have
we
not
might-
even met, they wrote a letter of
We had
support
Ethan so
for,
much here.
I know, but Ethan is my master's student. We still have access to him.
wait, you taught him in school?
No, he's currently doing a master's with me.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
That's so
Um,
cool.
I have not even met the new Trinity County Forester though.
Right, so we hope to meet them soon because,
Yeah.
you know, part of our charter
you
is to
can-
work in collaboration with the Chittenden County
He's
Forester.
coming out to Catamount Saturday if you wanna.
He wrote a letter of support for a grant that I put in, so I've just not like been like, hi.
Yeah.
For the outdoor family center.
No, for our research, like a totally separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For a research project. Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be great to have them also maybe come in here and meet us.
Yes,
That's
Can we
something
put
we
that
can do
on
for
the-
next meeting,
invite them.
send an invitation.
So it sounds like an inventory of projects as they start and continue and we should at least
Yeah.
be aware of them. I mean, I know Laura Myers does stuff out there too, right? Doesn't she do?
She does, so
stuff
we have
and-
like,
Mhm.
it might be nice to come up with a yearly, a calendar of what we do every month or what is done every month
Mhm. Out there.
out there.
Mhm.
Like, I guess you have the brush hogging on the count on our, something to talk about soon, because I believe that's something that's done on a 3-year rotation, but I just saw that as I read this. And, okay, now, what's my role as
doing
committee
this.
chair and your role as the staff and outdoor families, how are we all gonna get this done?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's something to discuss further. I think there's more detail there that we can talk about. I'm not sure if you're ready to go there yet, but
Well, maybe we put a big start, at least the start of a list together and we
Yeah.
can decide that this is a one-time thing, we don't have to track that, or this is an ongoing thing, or this is an organization that, you know, I don't, the Girl Scouts are out there every year doing X, you know, at least we know that it's out there and, you know,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, know what's going on out there. Cause I do, and I think there are more bird monitoring volunteers than just
Terry.
Terry.
Yeah, and I think
And
we'd do well to be
It'd be
like,
nice to even,
get a list
honor
of their names and be like, they're officially on this volunteer committee that's under the CCF, that's under the town. And this is like a thing. It's not just, like, I think we're supposed to maintain a little bit of semblance of order.
No, I would almost say maybe not. I haven't thought this all the way through, but this is a town park. You shouldn't have to sign up to be,
To be driving poles in the ground and installing.
Well,
bird
that's
Or
not what
we're
everyone's doing,
looking
right?
in the bird box to
Yeah.
make sure there's eggs
But I'm just
there.
saying, we're not gonna go out there saying like, excuse me, what's your name? Are you signed up? Nope, you'll have to go home. This is supposed to be an open park.
I'm not
I want
suggesting that
people-
anybody
And I'm not,
would do
and
that.
I'm not suggesting people need to freely go and put holes in the ground either. We're both being a little ridiculous, but it's, it's just a matter of, I don't want it to become so structured that people start feeling excluded from their
Well,
park.
Currently, there's zero structure around this bird program, and we don't even know if it's gonna continue. And the question for this committee is,
And I think when we're
How
saying
do
bird
we
program, there's
wanna-
like 4 different.
Yeah.
how do we wanna be involved in saying these things are legitimate? They exist, and these are the people that are involved with them, and we wanna check in with them once a year and say, how you guys doing? Is there anything you need?
Or make sure
Yeah.
that they continue as well.
Has
Yeah.
has Green Mountain Audubon not been leading some of these? Like in my memory of the like when we were writing the plan and getting reports, like Amanda was just nodding her head, but like does Green Mountain Audubon not run like a survey? Like I think there is some oversight and like organization. It's just that their reporting structure is not to us. Is that correct, Amanda?
I'm not sure what the organizational back end is. I know that Audubon has led bird walks with us kind of biannually, but not sure to the exact point of your question.
Not Audubon Vermont. This is confusing. There's Audubon Vermont and they've led bird walks. And then there's Green Mountain Audubon. And I think they do the bird survey and it's Bruce.
I haven't heard that name. I know that they call it the Nest Watch program. And I think
Yeah.
that it is associated with some study on, that there's something they're using that data for.
And I think it's Green Mountain Audubon. And I've seen Bruce out there walking around with Carl, who used to be on Conservation Commission, who was like also involved. And I'm frustrated with my brain.
So I'll mention too, this is a slightly different type of bird, but I have been emailing a bit with Carl and some other members of the community that are interested in the bobolinks out at Catamount.
Yeah.
And suggesting that they talk with this committee about the mowing contract is up this spring. And so they're interested in that and what the future is for that.
I actually just got an email about like the next iteration of the bobolink project, which is like run out of UMass, and Carl had really wanted to enroll us
So
in it before.
It could be a discussion about that. And we could also check in with them about if they're participating in that Nest Watch program.
I'll forward this to you right now.
Thank you.
And by we, do you mean you? Or Kim or me?
The committee would be talking with them. I've invited them to a meeting.
Okay,
And I mean, if I can just comment on the Nest Watch committee and this framework that we're trying to decide of what does our CCF committee do? This Nest Watch program feels like they're just pedestrians out there doing stuff. To your point, they shouldn't have to like register with anybody to do that. So like there's certain programs where you're installing and maintaining things on the property, like the bird boxes and the whatever. But like the bobolink group, the Nest Watch group, like they're just pedestrians.
Yeah.
We wouldn't like try to have any oversight of them.
Right.
But if you're out there,
Absolutely.
maintaining something on the property, then I think that would probably be a reason to have this committee paying more attention to it, because we're managing the property itself.
It would be cool though to have any group that's like collecting longitudinal data at least be like, hey, here's what we found at Catamount. It would be great to know how many nesting pair of bobolink they saw this summer. Just like, I don't know.
and we've gotten those notification updates before. When we had Terry here. She put that in.
I like
Nest
that.
Watch
I like that
maintains
idea.
42 bird nest boxes each spring.
We could and to that end, we could invite these groups. I don't know.
Share
to
share what
share
they learned and what they're doing.
to
what
the
they
committee
see.
to share whatever they want to share, and then it would go in like the annual report, because we have to do an annual report of the the town of Stone report to the CCF.
Mhm.
That'd be wonderful, and put them on like, I don't know, calendar, they get plugged in more to this committee.
Mhm.
Right, they can get invited to the volunteer ice cream social in the town.
There you go.
It also just gives us like a little bit more, like if we have to pitch the relevance or the value of the
Right.
forest to anyone, it like gives us a little bit more like, oh, it's also important wildlife habitat, for example.
Right, and community building.
Yeah.
A reminder too that there, anyone can make a stewardship fund request if they have a project. You don't have to be on this committee. But they make that request to this committee, which then can make a recommendation. And so you don't have to be on this committee to make a request. If there is a group that's interested in a project out there, that's what this committee is for, is to discuss that and then make a recommendation to the select board.
So we are welcoming the public to come to.
Yeah.
Come pitch it if all those people that are listening.
Right, I was gonna say for all three of you that are watching.
We welcome it, and we also have a spare chair here. You didn't hear that Reed has resigned at
Oh,
the end of the month, but couldn't make the meeting tonight, so we will have
an opening.
an opening. All right,
So I think we decided, what did we decide then?
we have a lot to think about. I think we decided that we would like to maybe figure out what all the projects are that are going on out there with kind of a calendar of when things are done.
Yeah. And a name attached if we can, so we can get more
A name
information.
attached.
Do you know if
Somebody
Tony
who's
has
going
more
to-
phases of?
That's an ongoing project, the forest management climate change project.
Yeah.
With Tony D'Amato.
Yeah, are there more treatments or is it just monitoring? Is there more cutting that will happen, or is it just monitoring?
It was a 10-year plan. We're behind, and the discussion with Ethan was, when he left, was, are we gonna get in trouble if we don't do everything this plan says in 10 years? And he said, no, like, there's no forest police that's gonna tell us. So this committee would have to decide like how hard to step on the gas of like, we have a 10-year plan, step 1, step 2, step 3. Do we want to try to initiate step 3?
But they're Tony research sites, so it should be like, I would think that he would be like I would think that he would be planning that so that it makes his data come out.
He might be planning his own sort of things that he's doing out there. Like there's a place where they fenced in.
Because there's 2 different sites, right? There's the site across from the Catamount.
So they're in
Forest.
here, but there's also like, it's part of like a global.
It'd be great to have him come in and talk to
Yeah.
us and tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Or, well, I think
Covered
he's
till
also had
February, yeah.
talks at the forest, right? He's led
Yeah.
some before about what he's been doing.
But I guess my question is like, for his research objectives, have we had a conversation about him about what his hopes and dreams are? No, it sounds like no. So yeah, maybe that
I
would
don't
be a
think we've
good one.
seen him.
I don't think we've ever had him here. He's done some walks at Catamount.
Yeah.
With Ethan.
Ethan, I think, was the go-between.
And the new forester, to me, the new forester would be the one that would come in and say, hey, how's that forest management plan? What step we on? We should like go to this new section. We should cut
Oh, but I think there's like 2 separate things. One is the 10-year forest management plan that Ethan wrote. And the other thing is Tony's research project. They're 2 separate. And
We
they're,
don't have much visibility to his research project,
Yeah.
except when the kids show up in pickup trucks and drive down the road when campers are there. Being a little bit
And that,
snarky, but
no,
that's our exposure to the research. Like, whoa, what's this pickup truck doing in the
was
woods?
it like UVM forestry summer camp?
I don't know. That is something that, yeah, we haven't addressed yet. And Hans and I have talked a little bit about that, and really, I mean, you could go to the license agreement on that. They shouldn't be doing that. Probably not if it's not absolutely necessary. But ultimately too, just generally driving vehicles out on the land is not in the town's interest either.
But more communication, I think, would be good with Tony. I mean, I think we'd want to partner with him, and because we're like, whoa, what are all these colored pin flags all over? What's going on out here? like stuff just happens and like, it'd be nice if. I don't think the CCF knew it was gonna happen, the COFC didn't know it was gonna happen, and all of a sudden there's colored plastic pin flags all over the woods. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
One thing I've been wanting to say, kind of with the few conversations we've had recently, is just keeping in mind that the Catamount Outdoor Family Center staff is like the public's go-to with questions on all of these things, whether it be invasive control, forest management, all the colored pin flags out in the woods. And a lot of the times we're told after the fact or by the public that these things are out there. So, one, knowing all the programs that are out there and all the volunteers that are out working so we can help spread the word, and just having the information and the resources we need to help educate people that are interested and want to help and have questions. That would be really, really helpful.
Well, this is a little bit subtle, but I'd
Yeah.
prefer we didn't call in this research guy and like take him to task in a public meeting. So I think if we're gonna have a conversation about some things that we're
Oh,
not
no.
comfortable with, we should probably have staff do that with Outdoor Family
Yeah.
Center maybe.
I brought that up
Yeah.
with Andrew, we
Yeah.
weren't,
I mean, 'cause
I shouldn't have probably brought it up even in this public group, but.
Yeah, but I would be interested, especially since we're gonna have so many new members. I know very little about it, except if it wasn't in the Wilson Observer, I know nothing about
Yeah.
it. So,
Which
I
don't
would
know,
be.
Was there a write-up about it on the Observer?
I think there
long
has
time
been, but
ago,
it's
yeah.
been a while, right?
Yeah.
That there was going to be some studies. I mean, and I'm on the committee and I'm about as vague as.
Right. So it might be interesting, especially when we get our new
Yeah.
member, to kind of circle back around on the forest management plan and bring in the forester and then bring in and then the research and bring in the researcher.
Right.
I think that would
And
be
even
really great
review
for
the
us.
plan, like I had we have a proposed action schedule at
Right.
the end of the plan, and then today I just was like, what year was this
I
gonna
thought
be
that's
started
what
at?
you were talking about, right? It's like,
Oh, and the
yeah.
forest
Did you see
management
that?
plan?
Yeah, no, the community, the forest plan
Oh.
here, we had like these dates of when things would be done by. But I don't know, but it starts with year one, so I don't know what year that was.
Oh, maybe that
They're
was 5 years ago.
aspirational. Man, I was like very
on year
pregnant
6
when we
now.
wrote that, so it
That's
must
year
be
6.
twenty
But so
eighteen.
year 9 is when we do the license agreement, which I was like, well, I know we did that last year, so what year are we on?
Oh, maybe that's
That was,
year 9 is the.
it was probably
No,
written, they were probably
we're on
assuming
year
a
6.
10-year. I think that plan was probably assuming they were gonna do a 10-year lease at
Yeah.
the time they only did
Oh, and
5.
then I do 5.
But
Yeah.
have we reviewed this? Did we get it? Is there stuff that, should we have another 10-year plan?
We do, we have one coming up in 2030 that we need to write, well, that's a wise way. To Amanda's point about Catamount Outdoor Family Center being the face to the public, I also feel like the website is the face to the public. Like if somebody probably wants to go to the forest for the first time and they were to Google Catamount Forest, then the Outdoor Family Center website is probably what comes up first.
Yeah, and there is like stuff nested on there currently, like Ethan made like a story map about Tony's project that I think is on there. It's like they could, but I think like it would be great to have updates and to know like are there other prescriptions that he needs to do there? What are they gonna be? What's the timing of them? Is there, in my mind, there's like planting that was part of it, but now I can't remember if I have got that wrong or not. When is that gonna happen? And like you should probably be able to like, if not answer all the questions, which is probably too big of an ask, Amanda.
Nowhere to point
people to, yeah.
But I do think it would be great maybe on the top of the website, because one of the things is that it's free for pedestrians to access, but it's which I think is a challenge for people to find that it's free to them. So if there's more ways we can broadcast how wonderful the forest is for more people to access it, would be great. I don't know if there's a way to get it so that it's more across the top of the page that pedestrians are welcome to access, are free.
I do think you're right that people don't know that. I actually had somebody ask me this week their parents are visiting from another country and they're like, oh, they're going to be here for 2 months. Is there like a monthly membership for hiking? And like, no, you can just go.
Right. Like,
but then you'd be able to find out when they can go without getting run over by bicycles.
They can go all the time, yeah, or not all the time, but yeah. So ways to let people know. I just, cause I feel like sometimes I'm out there, on a beautiful day and there's not as many people out there as you would think would be. Like, how do we get
More
more
people.
people to know?
That'd be a
about
great
it?
project to think about over the winter, then we could figure out how to, I don't know, do an event so that kids would go do a scavenger hunt or something, just to get people out into the forest and so that they know it's there and they.
You have an event this Saturday?
I know, it's free, it's all over Facebook, posted 75 different ways we're trying to share
Our,
it.
community harvest party, it'll have guided hikes, guided rides, it'll have an environmental education table, talk about our forestry project, ticks, invasive forest pests. I feel pretty passionately that Catamount does a good job about promoting pedestrian activities as well as our user paid activities, and it would be great to have everyone of every user group at this event this weekend.
Yeah.
First time hearing about it.
And it's free.
All right, well, good you heard about it before it
Yeah,
happened, so
I'm
now
in
you.
town this weekend.
We
I
gotta
know
put,
about
we
it.
gotta put you, we'll put you on the,
Well-
get your email. and
No,
put you
I
on
wanna
the-
know, I wanna be what people find out when they're not on the email list. I'm sure you do a great job with people who are on the email list, but.
But maybe like on the town forest events, maybe we can get up, like, it's a two-way street of updates, so then we can.
Terry did post it on her Catamount group that she has on her face. I mean, but then you have to be on Facebook if you're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
Terry
Yeah.
reposted it on her group too. So,
All right.
so we
Well,
good? We
we're
know what
good.
we're
I
doing?
think we have a lot of things to think about moving forward on, figuring out our charges. I will reach out to Terry and see what Terry is still doing.
It sounds like it might be helpful if you did some prioritization on what upcoming projects this committee wants to prioritize. Look at that list and for example, the bridges project. That's something that might be coming with the permits and et cetera. I'm not sure if actually permits are required for the replacement of those bridges,
I think yes.
but I think they are.
Cause they need upgrades, right? They couldn't just be replaced.
I think
Most
there was
you can
also
do
a
is
question
leave
about
that.
culverting those areas,
Mm,
which would also be
it's pretty wet, yeah.
um. But that could be something that if Danielle, if you and we could talk and sort of try to prepare something for this committee to review.
Sounds good. Take priorities. Figure out our priorities.
And then like getting a regular schedule of these groups, I don't know what to call them. The bobbling group, to get them to come here to share what their interests are in mowing and.
So we want
share
the schedule
updates.
of events of what they do. We all want to invite users.
Invite these groups like on a calendar cycle, like, oh, in October, the bobolink group always comes. In
Yeah.
November, the duck box people come. And I don't know, like, just maybe they can't fit that exact thing, but like invite them to come and share at this committee, like how their program's gone for the last year, what help they need and, you know.
One question I have is I know that we have a working event, a CCF events and work calendar kind of Excel sheet where the committee is supposed to put volunteer projects and events that they are hosting on so that I can then put them on Catamount's website. It's part of our license agreement requirement with the town. So I'm curious if that sheet would be what you all would use for this or if you're thinking of creating something new.
No, I think we're talking about people coming to the committee, not people coming to the forest.
Yeah.
But we also want to know who's going to the forest.
Well, yeah, I think that's what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to be on that. If they're volunteering, they have to let you guys know 48 hours in advance. I thought we kind of had locked down that process, right? And yes, I mean,
The process is locked down.
Yeah.
It would be maybe something to discuss with the committee if you think I should be reaching out to people who I think are involved to ask them to, be letting that down now.
You mean like, I know this is happening, they've not reached out sort of situation?
I'm saying it from my experience as a staff member, I think that there is volunteer work out there that people should be notifying me and they probably aren't.
And because they don't know.
They might not know, or they find it to be a burden. I've gotten that feedback as well.
Hmm.
I don't know if we're at that point yet. I think maybe we want a general idea of what is being done out there first.
And I'm also asking that question from like a help spread the word, not like a policing perspective.
I think that inviting people to this committee would be a good way to go about doing it. And Amanda, to your point about the spreadsheet, I do think that if that was being done, I was being notified, that would be a good way for me to tell you what's going on as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and just to play that out, so like the bobbling group would come next month or some month, and they tell us what's going on, and we would, as a committee, we express our gratitude for what they're doing. We'd ask them if there's any help they need. Andrew could say, oh, and we, make sure you're registering as here's the volunteer, so like just we're getting closer and working closer together by having them come.
Right. And when do you come? What's
And,
what's the schedule of your
Yeah,
events? Because we
right.
don't have the connection.
We can tell them like,
Many
oh,
more.
make sure you check the website so you know if like there's a big event that weekend that you have to avoid, or I think just having them here, we like establish the relationships closer. And there's a lot of things that can happen if we get them here to the committee.
There is I think the definition of, when someone needs to be notifying me too can be a little unclear. And generally, I'm kind of thinking out loud here that if someone's doing what anyone, a rational person would consider work, if that's driving in post for bird boxes or pulling poison parsnip, and those sort of, that would be a volunteer activity. If you're treating invasives out at Catamount, I should know about it. That sort of thing, but the distinction before too about kind of if you're going out birding, that's different.
Yeah.
And so having a discussion I think would be good at this committee. And just
So the people that we know about, right, are like several birding groups, which I think includes those affiliated with Green Mountain Audubon. Also includes Tony Diamato and his graduate students, and maybe forestry summer camp is happening at Catamount, which would be Lubin Dimov. If that's what the group of students was, because I don't think Tony doesn't have enough research students to have like a ban of people.
No, it was at a pickup truck with like three kids. There are three nice college people.
From Terry's email, it looks like we have Audubon bird monitoring in forest management area done each spring by Audubon. Tim Duclos is the contact for that. There's the Nest Watch, maintain 42 bird nest boxes each spring. Recruit 7 Nest Watch monitors each season. Reed has the wood duck boxes covered. And then bobolink monitoring, which is done by Audubon / GMAS. Which would be the Green Mountain.
Oh, well, so there's like Green Mountain Audubon or Society. There's like the place in Huntington that's Audubon, Vermont, that has like all the programs.
That's different than the Green Mountain
And then
Society.
Separately, there's Green Mountain Audubon Society, which predated that, which is just like an organization of people who are a member of a group. Like one is like paid staff, one is like more like a club, and they interact, but they're like separate entities with like separate directors and dues, etc. So you can like join a member to be a member of Green Mountain Audubon, and then Audubon Vermont. There's like the building and the staff right. And the school programs and yeah.
But I'm not sure about
which one is
going on this year. So there's a lot to find out about. All you can do is start, and we're gonna start. Right. Okay, should we talk about invasives? It feels like it's similar.
Yes.
And that's we have an invasive update and perhaps an invasive management plan to take on.
Yes. So, as I said before, the invasive management plan was, the money for that was approved. I reached out to Bob Hines and haven't heard back. I'm not sure based on the season whether or not he'll be able to complete that. To that point, there was mowing that was done this time of year in the past, and I put up the brush hogging map. I believe this was to treat poison parsnip that's gone to seed. Sheriff.
There is a lot there, like around the pond.
So you can see, well, actually you can't see right now. I'm not sure why that's not loading. Let me see if I can reopen this. The map has labels on it for the years that it was supposed to be mowed, and they're disappearing when I open it. So let me open the PDF.
Which is done, the brush hogging is done every year in the fall on a 3-year rotation.
It has been, yes. It wasn't planned for this fall, as far as I'm aware. Where are we?
And is that because, that's one of my questions, because Terry, was that because Terry planned it and now we don't have Terry planning it, that it wasn't, did I drop the ball that it wasn't done?
All your fault.
I'll have to get out there with
You know
my,
what that means? You gotta be chair for a whole nother year, so you get it right.
I know, right? Learn the first year, watch out for the second year.
I don't think that was necessarily the case. I actually think that it would be good for this committee to discuss this a little bit, because I think there were some problems last year with this. Mainly the tractor got stuck in a bunch of mud and needed to be pulled out. And so it was planned through 2023. The current plan is to have an invasive management plan done to have a proper approach to treating invasives at Catamount. And I think that it would be appropriate to include this as a question to a professional of, is this an effective way to treat those invasives? My understanding is that if you want to treat poison parsnip, you have to mow it pretty consistently for year after year. And so that's my limited knowledge, but I'd just be interested for this committee to discuss that. If you have any knowledge about it and you want to share.
Ideally, like before, like it's either like early or late, like not in July. That just helps it.
That spreads it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, like what is like for this part of the country, what is like the desired treatment? I don't know the answer to like what the perfect one is. I think it's earlier. I think that's like the recommendation, but it would be cool to get an invasion ecologist or somebody who does that work to.
The way it had been done under Terry before was late June till July, digging plants at base of Goose Hill and out Woods Trace Trail. And then Jim was mowing it for the Outdoor Family Center after that for the rest of the summer.
Oh, okay.
That's how had the poison parsnip maintenance had been.
Were people doing it like in trash bags or like it's like in full bloom at that time?
It's really dangerous.
I don't really think there were, I mean,
In June?
Terry was doing it. They had, they would protect themselves and use there's like this parsnipinator shovel
Yeah.
thing.
To pull it.
I think they were doing it the right way.
Not that they would be doing it the wrong way, but just that like in July or in June and July, it's like making the oil. Like how are they keeping it off? It doesn't matter. It's not.
no, they did on cloudy days.
Yeah.
Mowing it when it's in June or July can be really dangerous because it not only spreads the seed, but it can also get the oil everywhere.
Yeah.
Which if you're weed whacking it and it's all over you.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I think we need a plan.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a great timing to have a
Yes.
plan come up.
And so
maybe we don't brush hog until we get the plan. It says 2023 to be mowed.
It's 2020.
Was that
Did those happen?
I think that was done, and that's where where it got stuck.
Okay.
On the south side there, on the orange
In the north side.
side.
Oh.
Every time, I know.
I think, yeah. And I remember John saying like, we just had the wetland map done, and that's a wetland that you were brush hogging. And that's where the tractor got stuck, I think.
I guess he was right.
Well, at least the, whoever did the wetland.
Was right, yeah.
So you're gonna add the brush hogging potential or what to the invasive management plan request?
Yes, yeah, I would add that as a question. Actually, probably more pointed towards poison parsnip, because I think that's the intent of this. On how to address that.
Does the town doesn't have a approach to poison parsnip more broadly? Even though it's like all over, all along the rec path and is in full bloom for the 4th of July when there's a million children on the rec path, and I'm always like.
We don't have an approach, besides informing people what it is.
Yeah.
And to be cautious. I definitely got some calls this year about certain spots where it was really bad and questions on removing it, and I wasn't going to remove it at that time because the amount of it, I wouldn't have been able to do it without a weed whacker, and I wasn't going to weed whack it.
Yeah.
For the reasons I said before.
You don't want to be burned?
Or my Tyvek suit.
So is that something that we can send to the conservation?
I don't know,
committee
that's
to
what
take
I'm
on?
wondering, or like who's, if they're like along the rec, like does it need to be like like it's almost like who's doing the edging all along, like the thing that happens is like areas get disturbed and it's like, ooh, I love that, right? And so it's always on the edges of like transition zones, and then I think those often along the rec paths get mowed early in the spring, maybe at a time when it's actually helping with seed dispersal. So I don't know who's like.
It'd be buildings in the grounds or Parks and Rec, depending on where it is. And it's all in this building, and so we can.
Yeah, so is that a conservation commission thing, or is that like across multiple committees? Like, is that like our two committees together?
I feel perhaps, I mean, it probably needs to come as a top-down thing.
Yeah, buildings and grounds too, they're the ones who do the mowing, right?
So.
Yeah, but if the committees came to the select board saying this is getting to be a huge problem in town, we need a solution.
We're hearing from people.
This is what we wanna, this is our plan we'd like you to consider.
Yeah.
My understanding is that you could brush hog it aggressively for a few seasons, and that would be effective.
I don't know.
Really?
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's
not my area.
I don't have experience doing that. That's what I've heard is an effective way to address.
Because it doesn't have a chance to seed and the parent plants just die out.
I mean, I should think it's similar to like mowing your lawn. Like poison parsnip grows up in the middle of your lawn. I guess you just mow it over and over. It will.
It totally would
if you didn't mow it all the time.
Right.
Or if it probably hasn't been introduced to the middle of your lawn.
It's a question. But I think to Jean's point about if that's something that people are concerned about, that's something that I would direct someone who called me who I knew I couldn't do anything about it. Ultimately, going to the select board, if you think it's a problem, is good to communicate that to your select board.
And then we just decide which committee's going to deal with it.
Yeah,
it's hard to find the committee. We tried that one already.
Poison parsnip control committee. Okay, I'm gonna say that's bigger than we can tackle tonight.
But it should definitely go in our, like, poison parsnip should go in our Catamount invasive plan.
Yes, yeah, and the major invasives that we have out there are the poison parsnip and the Japanese barberry.
I didn't even know that one.
Ethan ID'd it as the worst invasive in everywhere.
It's barberry.
It has little like spikes.
Ooh.
On which they're like that's not actually what's so terrible about it, but that's how you can ID it.
No.
And then there's like 5, right?
I guess you could hurt yourself on them, but I feel like that's the thing that's bad about it is that they like it outcompetes everything in the understory, and it has like these little berries that are very attractive to birds, but they're like bird junk food.
Oh, it doesn't do anything for the birds.
Yeah, so they just like run out of energy.
Oh.
Isn't that similar to buckthorn too?
Yeah, yeah.
Buckthorn and
Yeah, same thing.
honeysuckle that I,
Oh, yeah, those are the other 2 that we have out.
There's a ton of honeysuckle out there, yeah.
and I'm really good at finding honeysuckle.
It smells great.
Fighting that on my property for 10 years. I'm winning.
There is a blog post on the Catamount website that is an invasive update from Ethan from last year. I think it might be the previous year, but it has images of every invasive you're talking about, as well as a short little blurb about why it's invasive and where you can find it at Catamount. So that's a quick go-to if anyone's interested.
Great, thank you.
Say Japanese, it's called barberry.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
All right, so it's 6:30. Do we have other business? You wanted to talk about the committee member?
Yeah, how do we go about finding a new committee member? We kind of covered this already, but I feel like this committee would benefit from having somebody who was sort of passionate about the forest as a forest, if that makes sense, or pedestrian use of the forest. That just kind of feels like 2 pieces that would be interesting to have somebody with a real focus on that. And how would we go about recruiting somebody like that?
Word of mouth.
Well, we have to put it out to the public, right?
Yeah.
It has to join, oh yeah, we'll join the list of all the other volunteer opportunities for the other
That are
open
not,
committee.
that are not filled, yeah.
Right.
Oh, do we have, I feel like are we having trouble getting volunteers right
Yeah.
now for the
There's a
town?
number of openings.
Number of openings, yeah.
Is that new? Do you feel like, or like well, I feel like when I joined Conservation Commission, there were like multiple people who applied and I had to like pitch myself.
Ooh, you had to fight for it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a fight. It was like we weren't fighting. It was very friendly. But is that a change, do you think, in volunteerism? Just this is
In my time, there's been
immaterial
an
to
up
me.
and down,
Hmm.
you know, in the committees. I think, I'm wondering that if after COVID, things have changed. But this is the most vacancies we've had since I've been here in the last just over 2 years.
Interesting.
I think Parks and Rec always has an open spot.
Hmm.
And there's some others that always.
That's so funny to me because I feel like that one's so compelling. Like,
Yeah, right.
7 in the morning.
oh,
I'll do it.
There's not
Also
a long
7 in the
time
morning.
frame, I don't think.
But word of mouth is the most effective, according to Aaron, most effective way to spread the word. And so that's, yeah. If you know anyone who's interested.
so we ideally want somebody who is using either Catamount or other town forests and is using them in like a pedestrian function and like could bring that vision of like community forest use to this group. So that
Well-
might not necessarily be someone on your listserv.
I mean, I think, pedestrian or like like the things that we lost with Terry and, Reed, like that kind of, like a natural kind of interest in outdoorsy stuff. I mean, I guess you can
Oh,
call it
naturalist, that's a
pedestrian
great way to say it,
activities.
actually, naturalist kind of.
Or maybe we can
Perspective.
reach out to the Williston Naturalist Committee or group, whatever,
Master naturalist.
Master Naturalists.
Yeah, they might have a listserv.
Right.
Oh, okay. I like that,
I
yeah.
mean, somebody that really, it's not just like some random person, like, oh, I've never been there, but I have a committee.
Like me.
Well, you're a select board.
I know.
Yeah.
Short straw.
Well, we're glad we have it.
Right.
I guess the other strategy would be like, what constituencies have we not involved traditionally with this property that we wish we could? And how do we recruit somebody from that group or groups?
That'd be a great opportunity if we could figure out how to do that.
And isn't that always the challenge?
Like a K through 12 educator. Or I'm trying to think like what other groups would we wish would make more use of that property? That historically haven't, I don't know the answer. I'm not like coming up with groups.
And that are then a Williston resident.
Mm-hmm.
Because the property is used by larger than Williston, which I think is like the interesting thing. It's not the
Right.
Williston Town Forest, it's the Catamount Community Forest because it has a larger group of people served. The people who are present on the committee needs to be in Williston.
Right.
So almost the person who has never been to Catamount would be an interesting person to have on the committee.
Yeah.
Because
In some ways, yes, to be like, why is this relevant to me? Here's how to make it more relevant to other people.
But the person's gonna be sitting here listening to people who like bobolinks and think about, forest management and invasive trees. That's a lot to ask somebody who's just, who's not particularly
Right.
engaged. It's not just about engagement, I guess.
So on one hand, it's just gonna go out to the public and anybody that sees it
Yeah.
will, and then over top of that, we can like selectively try to
we can tell anybody.
target anybody, forward the posting to people that fit this profile.
Mhm. Yep.
And then you ultimately will interview everybody.
Mhm.
Right, so we wanna let people know this when we can, but how do we haven't had an opening before. There's always been somebody who's rolled into the two public positions.
Well, there was an opening and I applied and I had to go to select board and
I thought
interview.
you had I thought that, okay. I didn't think the person had left yet, I thought they were waiting for somebody to leave, there was for somebody to.
Oh,
apply.
there wasn't like a gap
Yeah.
before. I see. So like someone's term was ending and they were like, I'm not gonna re-up my term.
I thought that they knew that you were interested and then they were
I saw a
happy to apply.
posting
Oh, okay,
and I was like, oh, wow, that sounds good.
all right,
Well, in any case, I guess we can all just be thinking about like who we think would be good for it. And it could be like people who live in town that have no idea that it exists and might want to make it more relevant, or people who like walk there all the time and yeah.
is it okay if I just put a post out there too, as a person,
Sure.
yeah.
Be good if I forget do we post an opening, post something on, so wait till something is posted and then you could just send
Yeah,
out.
I send the
Send
link,
link.
okay,
We have the website here.
There you go.
Look at that.
Yeah.
This is the,
it's already posted.
That's already
Okay.
posted.
It's already posted. Wow.
I gotta put out a
How to
big,
apply to?
Yeah, how to apply.
Oh, nice.
contact Aaron.
So you can send the link around.
Wait, go back to the list. I'm just like really fascinated by this like downturn and wow.
and do we have town forest events to share with Amanda for the Excel schedule link
We do not.
and future agenda items?
Do we need to circle back around to our event?
Or weddings?
Adjustment, no, the wedding topic.
Oh, an update, we need an update on that probably,
Well,
right?
the action was, I don't know, the town had gotten a note back from somebody in the government. And John wanted to take a look at it and talk to them as well. So I don't know that we've done that yet, Amanda. It
We did
honestly,
The US Forest Service, that was the contact.
yeah. And there's a lot going on at Catamount, so this, isn't like, this was something to add, but not like the top of the list, so. Mostly, finishing up summer and getting ready for winter and the Act 250 permit and the VORAC grant.
Mhm.
So, all of those things are more important than this, so John just is further down this priority list, so probably be on hold for a time.
What's the VORAC grant?
The Vermont Outdoor Recreation something, but the government,
Economic,
Commerce?
yeah.
But for what?
the Vermont government hands out like $5 million or more to applicants that ask all across the state that ask for and apply for projects. And Catamount Outdoor Family Center received 175,000, I think.
26,000 for a blueprint design essentially will be the end product of that grant. So we'll have blueprints designed for a future building.
Yeah. Yeah, but they gave away, there's grants that went to like Woodstock and all over the place. A lot of town forests that were like installing boardwalks from elementary schools across wetlands to get to, trails, and there's yeah, a lot of different little projects going on around the state. And big ones too. So yeah, so we have to like get a contractor.
All right, right. Okay, our next meeting is on November 14th. On your calendars now.
I think I added them indefinitely.
Is 5:30 hard for you to make?
It has been, but I don't think it should be
Going forward?
going forward. I just didn't plan well with, I was like, yes, I can do swim team. Instead of saying, no, you have to do swim team.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
And you and I are going to maybe meet up and discuss the priorities and figuring
Yes.
out our.
Yeah, we can,
plan.
yeah, I have a list here of things. I think that conversation was good, and we can talk more about how to organize that with upcoming agendas.
Great.
I will have to join totally remotely all spring. Which I think I maybe have not told this group, but I told Conservation Commission I got a Fulbright award and we're gonna be,
Exciting.
thank you, in British Columbia for the spring.
Oh, so
Lucky you.
I know, terrible. So this time is fine.
I was gonna say it'll be 2:30.
Right. But Conservation Commission is
In the
Let's
morning.
take a break.
at 4 a.m. Eastern time.
So we can get out early.
I was like, how many can I miss?
Where you pick me up.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have a policy for that.
Yes.
I was actually kind of
Yes.
surprised.
Yeah, but you can feel better because it'll take 6 months to replace you, in which case you can just reapply again.
Oh.
Oh.
So yes, I'll join from beautiful Vancouver Island remotely.
And I'd forgotten about the storyboard thing about the forest. So, when we know like what's on the agenda, a little more heads up, so I could probably just, if I need to read the forest plan before the guy comes to talk to the forest planner, if I need to go through the storyboard about the research thing, which I do remember now,
Yeah.
it's out there. I just need a little bit of time to fit that in my schedule.
So when's it better for you? Like a week in advance?
Yeah, weekend would be great. Before the weekend would be great.
Before the weekend.
Yeah.
We can try to, yeah,
I mean, it doesn't
End
be the
of day
whole
Friday.
agenda. It's just like it would be good for the weekend. It'd be great.
yeah,
Because I
that's,
like to
Agenda.
talk intelligently to anybody who's coming to a committee.
All right, and we are hoping to get the forester for November.
That'd be great.
Brendan, right? It's in Brendan.
is it Brendan or Brandon? I
Is
have a
it
hard-
Brandon? Oh, yeah, maybe it's Brandon. Something like that.
We'll ask him when he gets here.
Yeah.
What's your name again?
Nice to meet you.
All right.
Who wants to adjourn this? Motion? I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Great.
Wow, this is the earliest